myself. Next on the program, District Attorney's race. 2-minute opening statement. And ladies, go first.
Good evening. As most of y'all here in Clinch County know, I'm Kathy Helms. I want to thank all of y'all for being here. I want to thank y'all for your support and encouragement as voters. And I also want to thank Farm Bureau for hosting this. I have been your elected district attorney for the last 8 years. It has been a great privilege and honor to serve in that capacity. Prior to that, as most of y'all know, I practiced here in Homerville with my husband Jeff for about 15 years, during which time I tried cases in both state and federal courts. I also served as an assistant district attorney in Valdosta for 2 years, during which time I tried more than 50 felony jury trials. I attended the University of Georgia Law School and went undergraduate to the University of Virginia. I've been active in this community, high school mock trial. I see a bunch of my high school mock trial graduates. Also been active in the Homerville United Methodist Church, serving on Pastor Parish Relations Committee. Hats off to my preacher who's here. And also serving in the community, Homerville Women's Club, among other organizations. Boy Scouts, I forgot about that. Good Lord, how could I do that? Camping, I missed camping this year for the first year in 6 years with our troop. Jeff and I have a very active 14-year-old, actually 15 in 1 month from tomorrow, son Jack, who keeps us on our toes. During the time I've been in the district attorney's office, we have handled more than 20,000 cases. I personally have tried more than 25 jury trials during that time, a total of 40 trials total, including bench trials. We have an excellent record in both the courts, trial courts, and also on appeal. And with that, I thank y'all for your support, and I urge everyone to be sure to vote in the Republican primary on July 31st. Thank you.
Is this on? Sorry. My name is Dick Perryman. I'm from Berrien County. I'm running for district attorney. I want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight. It means a lot to see voters out and taking an interest. I want to thank my wife for being here tonight, and hopefully she'll stay with me over the next 2 weeks. It's been a long campaign. I want to thank the Clinch County Farm Bureau for putting this on. One of the things I want to talk about tonight is my experience. There's been some insinuation that I'm not sure how to find the courthouse, much less the courtroom. I went to law school up in Macon, and actually while I was in law school, had the opportunity to try my first jury trial over in Lanier County. It was prosecuting a crack dealer. We got a conviction there. In a small town like Nashville, where I'm from, you've got to handle a wide variety of cases. And in that time, I've handled contested hearings and trials in probate court, magistrate court, superior court. Also had the opportunity when I was working in Valdosta to handle a case that went before the Court of Appeals. I also want to talk to you a little bit about getting your bang for your buck in Clinch County. Unfortunately, at this point, you're not getting your money's worth out of this office. You've got cases sitting in the filing box of your courthouse collecting dust. It's misdemeanor cases that have not been tried. That was a budget dispute with the district attorney's office and the commissioners, and as a result, there are misdemeanors and felonies that haven't been tried in quite some time, which is tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of money that this county could have collected. I think we need to see that changed. I'm ready to make that change. I would appreciate your vote and your support.
We're going to begin with the questions. We are going to allow, you can take notes, we're going to allow time at the very end for any rebuttal. We'll give you 30 seconds more with a closing statement there if you want to rebut any statements been made. Again, I did not write these questions, but I'm going to just go ahead and start. The first question is for Mr. Perryman. Your opponent has stated your lack of courtroom experience would hinder you from performing your job as district attorney. How do you respond to this?
Yeah, absolutely. That's as I mentioned in my opening statement, the extent of my experience has been, excuse extent of my lack of experience has been exaggerated. I do not have the experience that the current district attorney has. She's been district attorney for the last 8 years, and I have not. Can't argue with that. The question about experience becomes, how's it being used? If you're not exercising good judgment and common sense, then all the experience in the world does you no good. We've got to make sure that we're consistently protecting our community and doing it within our budget parameters also. The district attorney's office doesn't just try cases, but it's an administrative position also that is in control of our money. And we have to do more with less because there's less money in our coffers, and we've got to work harder and smarter, not work less.
Ms. Helms, the next question is for you. Your opponent has criticized you for not having good communication with law enforcement. How do you respond to this?
Well, over the last 8 years, with an excellent record in court that we have had, you cannot win in court without communication with law enforcement. During that last 8 years, I've handled every single murder, homicide case within this circuit. I've won every one of them. You don't win cases with lack of communication. All the law enforcement officers in this circuit have the cell phone numbers of me and my assistants, and I see at least one of my assistants here smirking because she gets constant calls from law enforcement. We also provide training for our law enforcement. We do that in between our trial terms so that it doesn't disturb our courtroom work, and right now we're in the middle of providing 5 different trainings for our law enforcement. We also regularly work with law enforcement, helping them better improve their courtroom skills, also executing search warrants, and provide law enforcement on a regular basis.
Okay, the next question is for Mr. Perryman. One of your major platforms has been aggressively going after sexual predators. How do you feel your opponent has fallen short in this area?
I feel like there's been a lack of aggressive prosecution of child molesters and a lack of consistency in plea bargains that are being given out. Let me give you an example. Over in Berrien County, there was a man that shot a dog, and he was given 5 years probation. Now, I can't say I know the circumstances under which he shot that dog, but he shot a dog. Didn't kill it, by the way. 5 years probation. I've got cases here where child molesters, men stood up in a courtroom and admitted in front of God and the judge that they molested a child and got 10 years probation. That is not right. It's not justice. Your children were not any safer when those men went home and walked the streets instead of going to prison, and my son was not any safer. I would end the practice of giving probation to child molesters.
Mrs. Holmes, what are you doing to aggressively go after sexual predators?
During the last, actually the 26 years of my career, I have tried many child molestation cases, aggravated child molestation cases. And first of all, let me point out, apparently my opponent's lack of experience in the courtroom. He doesn't understand that the judge has the final authority over sentencing. I've never sentenced anybody. We do plea recommendations to the court. And again, anyone who understands evidence and understands courtroom procedure would know that sometimes you have a case that has evidentiary problems. In those cases, your choices are go to trial and get a not guilty verdict, or work out a plea where the defendant will have for life sex offender conditions. Now, I can promise you that I will always look out for the best interest of a child. And if the therapist or parent says that this child cannot take the stand and undergo cross-examination, I am going to make sure that what's done is in the best interest of the child and the community.
Before the closing statement, we're going to allow each of you 30 seconds, 1 minute. Barry says 1 minute. We're going to allow 1 minute for rebuttal to anything that you want, any issue that's been brought forward. So Mr. Perryman, I'll allow you to go first on this.
First off, let me readdress the child molestation issue. My opponent is correct. The judge hands down the ultimate sentence, but these cases we're talking about were negotiated pleas from her office. Bottom line, it had never gotten in front of the judge. It hadn't been negotiated by the district attorney's office. Secondly, I urge you, please speak to law enforcement about the disconnect between the district attorney's office and law enforcement. There's a lack of communication there. There's a disconnect. And when the district attorney's office and law enforcement aren't on the same page, then we as a community are not as safe as we could be. I urge you, please speak to your law enforcement about this race.
Let me address the issue about Clinch. In 2009, as y'all may recall, Clinch Board of Commission did away with Clinch State Court, dumping more than 1,000 misdemeanor cases onto us in the DA's office and in Superior Court. We have handled almost all of those cases. There are a residual 1 or 2 that are still left. Then in fiscal 2011, the Board of Commission, except for Chad Brown and Jason McClain at the time, voted to eliminate all personnel funding. At the time that they did away with state court, we had a part-time secretary, Linda Morrison, here in Clinch County. When they did away with the personnel position, it's not fair to the other counties to have to pick up that. We have, through my office's extremely hard work, we have managed to continue doing all victim cases, felony and misdemeanor. And I personally, due to the death of Macy and Jim McClain and Rance Register, take a personal interest in DUIs. I input those myself at nights at home. There is no misdemeanor problem.
We're going to allow 2 minutes closing statement, because there might be an opportunity that you want to rebut something that's already been said. Give me just a minute to compose your thoughts. 2 minutes closing statement. Do we have any volunteers who wants to be first?
Well,
Volunteer. No appointing. Volunteer.
That's fine. That's fine. Again, this is Dick Perryman. I've been identifying myself for the radio, but I assume that they can tell the difference between my voice and my opponent's. I again want to thank everybody for coming tonight. It means a lot that y'all showed up. I want your vote. I asked for your vote. It's also more important that you actually go and vote. I'm a believer that you have to exercise that right in order to be an active member and a contributing member of our society. So I urge you, please go and vote. I also urge you again, please go speak to law enforcement. You know a deputy, a probation officer, speak to the sheriff, jailer, policeman, ask them about their thoughts on the office and whether or not there's a communication gap there, and whether or not that communication gap is a problem. And I'm comfortable telling you to go ask those people, because you're going to find that it is problematic and it's an issue. And it's not just an issue here in Clinch, it's an issue across the 5 circuits. As for Clinch County, however the backlog of misdemeanors came to be about over a budget dispute, there's still a backlog of misdemeanors. They're there. And you're losing out on your money that can be collected and go to other projects and other things in your county. I appreciate again Farm Bureau having me here tonight. And God bless y'all and wish you a safe evening.
first of all, let me touch on the child molestations. We've tried more than 100 child molestations during the last 8 years. We've obtained sentences of life, 50 years in prison, 35 years. Many of them have received very long prison sentences. Secondly, as to there is no backlog in Clinch or anywhere else. There are fewer than 20 cases that are older than 18 months anywhere in the circuit. And in fact, we've been recognized, this circuit has been recognized throughout the state as having one of the best clear rates anywhere made by the Board of Commissioners. They made a conscious funding decision. They could have funded probate court to handle all traffic cases, and instead they decided to give the DA's office $2,000, $1,000 for telephone and DSL, $1,000 for pencils, pens, paper, and files. They give by contrast, the public defender's office over $37,000. They fund indigent criminal defense rather than criminal prosecution. And I want to give hats off to Dan Michael and to Chad Brown again, because they voted to restore the funding to the DA's office. As for law enforcement, I couldn't agree with my opponent more. Talk to law enforcement. Ask them who they want next to them when they're having a motion to suppress hearing. Ask them who they want trying their cases. Ask them who they call at 3 a.m. when they're executing a search warrant. And they'll tell you, they call the DA's office. They call us. There's only one candidate in this race who has ever tried a jury trial since becoming a lawyer. There's only one candidate in this race who's ever argued before the Court of Appeals and the Georgia Supreme Court. There's only one candidate in this race who's ever handled all phases of a death penalty trial. And that candidate is me. I would ask that you go to the polls, vote Kathy Helms, re-elect Kathy Helms as district attorney on July 31st. Early voting is going on now. A politician said vote early, vote often. I can't vote often.
Let's give these two candidates. Next on the agenda is the sheriff's candidates. We're going to give you a 2-minute opening statement again, 1 minute to answer, and then 1 minute to close. So, gentlemen, and we'll start down on the far right with your opening statement. Introduce yourself, please.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Turner, and I'm running for sheriff. I currently work as an investigator for the Homerville Police Department. I was hired as a patrol officer in 2007 and presently hold the rank of lieutenant, supervising either directly or indirectly 7 officers. During my tenure, I've had 795 hours of training from the state of Georgia. I've had extensive training in the areas of criminal investigations, sexual assaults, child abuse, and gangs. I've worked and investigated many cases to include traffic,